Political analyst and director of research at the Auwal Socio-economic Research Institute, ASRI, Angelo Fick, is joining us now to talk about his thoughts on this. Thank you so much for joining us, Angelo. There's been criticism by some about the eventual postponement of this meeting, the observation being that if, as we heard from the Treasury General, that the meeting had to be postponed because the NWC had to be consulted, why even call the NEC meeting?
Absolutely, and good evening, Tsepiso. The problem here is that this is not a very long document. This document can be read twice within an hour and a half if you focus your attention on it. The document is very clear in what it sets out, and the process by which the document comes to be was clearly set up as a parliamentary process. So how the NEC or the National Working Committee or the officials of the ANC will discuss this might be interesting for inside the ANC, but there is a process underway that is parliamentary. And so at some point before December the 6th, when Parliament closes for the year, one would imagine that there should be some direction from Parliament about what it intends to do with this. Now, the fact that parliamentary caucus of the ANC may not be able to effect such a move until the NEC, the NWC and the officials have met on this is a different story. Because what we see here is a clash between bottom-up democracy, the people's elected representatives having to discuss the issue that's put before them, and the top-down vanguardist notion of democracy, which is the ANC's notion that the officials will take the lead on this and present to the NEC what it is that they make of this. And that's a very strange process for a document that isn't particularly complex and is very clearly set out for what it says are issues that need to be raised and issues that need to be dealt with.
There's some, Angelo, as we mentioned earlier on, members who were perturbed by President Cyril Ramaphosa not showing up to the NEC meeting. And yet, as we heard from Paul Mashatile, the NWC needs to process the report, of which President Ramaphosa is himself a member. Is it a good or a bad thing that he wasn't there? I'm just thinking from the point of view, those of his detractors who may have felt that he would have then influenced the outcome.
That's one possible reading of it, but it's also important that if there are accusations against you and that people are going to discuss those accusations for the purposes of transparency, you should be in the room to be able to hear and be able to answer their questions. Now, the whole problem around this, and this comes up in the independent panel's report, is that the president has not responded very well to the very many queries in the 6 months that have passed since Arthur Fraser walked into the Rosebank police station that could have been very and should have been very easily clarified. The president should have been able to provide a docket number that he or his staff had engaged in making a case at the police station about the theft. He should have been able to provide all the paperwork indicating where the money that was stolen came from, who had brought it in, how they had gotten it through the customs. Because if these are legitimate business deals, there should be a track record. There should be, this is foreign currency. This is also not a small amount of foreign currency. And as the report points out, if that amount of money is stolen in a criminal act, it is the duty of any citizen, and particularly public officials, to contact the Priority Crimes Division. So there is a series of acts that should have been followed. And again, this is deja vu. We've been here before in South Africa, where there is one route that is indicated by the letter of the law. And when the head of state or a senior person in the governing party doesn't follow that letter, there are all sorts of excuses made. Now, the problem here is, in a constitutional order, the people who stand up and take an oath of office and get publicly paid for years on end to say that they will defend the Constitution and the rule of law must be judged to have abided by the rule of law. And when they don't, they should pay the price. Now, if Mr. Ramaphosa can prove that none of these allegations and suspicions that are raised in the report hold water, he must provide the documentary evidence. He's had 6 months since the allegations surfaced to clear the air, to provide the evidence. Now there are specific things that are being asked for in this report. He should be able to provide them.
Angela, as you say, we've been here before, and this is why it took a court to order Parliament to ensure that there is a Section 89, which then gives guidance on how to impeach a president. Now, those who are particularly within the party arguing this very important matter, are they doing that from a dispassionate point of view? Are they objective observers? Or as we saw, we had the ANC KwaZulu-Natal chairperson, Bheki Mdolo, saying that they will not allow the ANC to drag this matter until the 2024 national election. Speaking to, as some observers say, those who want to get President Ramaphosa out, and the fact that there are those of his allies who want to keep him in, as we heard James Mutlatsi saying that the president should not be told by criminals to leave.
Well, this is not an either-or. People may very well be using this opportunistically in order to remove Cyril Ramaphosa from the presidency of the ANC, and they may have a variety of reasons. Some of them might say their reasons are very good. Some of them might say their reasons are because he hasn't fulfilled their desire for what the African National Congress should do. That's internal business to the African National Congress, but there is national business here. And I find it very interesting that the national chairperson of the African National Congress, who currently serves in cabinet as the Minister of Energy and Mineral Resources, suggests that the ANC should be allowed to have its conference and the country should deal with this issue after the ANC has resolved its own internal issues. The country does not have until the 20th of December if the head of state cannot prove that these particular concerns, and isn't it interesting that the phrase prima facie has returned to public discourse through this report, another moment of deja vu of going back to the past. But the president should be able to prove that none of these allegations hold water, and then we can move on as the state and the ANC can get on with its business. The country should not come second to the African National Congress's internal dynamics. And again, I don't think that we should be held to ransom with this idea that if Cyril Ramaphosa isn't president, we descend into chaos. We have a constitutional democratic order. If Cyril Ramaphosa, heaven forbid, touch wood, this doesn't happen to the man, because I don't wish ill on anybody, but if he ceases to be able to be the president for a variety of other reasons that may have to do with health or all sorts of other things, we have a deputy president. There are structures in place to make sure that should a head of state no longer be able to fulfill their function for any reason whatsoever, there are other candidates in the offing. This is not a space in which we have this personality cult, whether it's the man that is currently in the position or it's nobody else. And if chaos is to ensue because the current head of state is no longer the head of state, the African National Congress has some very tough questions to ask itself. With nobody in its ranks, none of the deployees that it has put into the positions at deputy president level at other points in the state structure that should be able to take over the headship of the state even temporarily in the tragic event of the head of state not being able to perform that function. If they can't do it, why are they there? So this reasoning doesn't make any sense to me. It's
Angelo?
Opportunistic and very convenient reasoning.
Just very briefly, and if you can answer, if you choose not to, that's fine. Should he stay or should he go?
That is not a call that I can make. My position is that the president should be able to clarify the uncertainty that the report raises. And if he cannot do so, it is Parliament's duty to enact the laws of this country, hold him accountable and censure him for breaking the oath of office, or breaking the Constitution and not doing what was required.
Thank you so much for your time and insights. Always appreciated. Angelo Fick is political analyst and director of research at the Auwal Socio-economic Research Institute, ASRI, just speaking to us about the outcome of that postponed NEC meeting and, of course, the process as it's going to unfold. We will be speaking to the religious sector in just a moment to hear their opinion about the latest ongoings and how they should eventually play out themselves.